Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Today. Dale Parrish, your host, along with Ken Kashuba, co-host. Well, Ken, it looks like, are we connected to Facebook again? I got that message again.
You did. Okay. Let me run a quick welcome message here and we'll tell for sure, but I think you're probably right. We have to
I'm
get
sorry, folks. We seem to be encountering this problem every week anymore.
Let's see.
We're set up as one of our destinations is Facebook, our Facebook page. And it seems like everything looks good until we start the live stream, and then all of a sudden we get a message that we're not connected to our destination of Facebook. We don't know what's going on. So now, okay, it looks like we're connected again now. Ken got that straightened out. Thank goodness.
Well, we think. I don't know. I just got a. What's going on? I don't think I'm going to Facebook yet. Okay.
All right. Okay.
See what happens.
We're off to a bit of a rocky start tonight.
Oh my.
We've had one last minute cancellation on a guest, so that happens in this business. So someone suggested one of our other guests tonight, Debbie, suggested that we'll call this National Program Abbreviation Day. So we're going to have. In line with the day, we're going to have a bit of an abbreviated program for you tonight. But
unless, of course, we get so many comments that the program just gets extended and extended. So you're welcome to post all the comments and questions you need. We'll certainly have the time to answer them.
That is very true. Thank you for pointing that out. Well, let me get this is something I don't normally flash up here, but since we got a little time tonight, let me show this. This is broadcast number 358, and Ken has been on board for 216 of those. So
time is flying. Yep, time is flying by.
When are we going to hit that 400 mark? I guess it'll be 20 sometime in 2027, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. As usual, we always like to say this, that COS Today is saving the country with Convention of States. Saving the country with Convention of States. And I'll just say this again. I've said it many times, Ken, and I think you agree. We see day in and day out many situations in our country where a Convention of States is what we need to address that kind of problem, that kind of issue.
Yep, most definitely.
Because unfortunately, our leaders in Washington D.C. won't solve.
Have no interest in solving. That's true. Yes.
Yeah. So
it's not showing up still.
Yes, saving the country with a Convention of States. All right. Well, Ken, let's let our little fellow here, Maringo Mike, tell us a little bit about how to connect with us here.
Okay.
Sure, and hit the like and subscribe buttons along with the notifications bell so you'll always know when we go live. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us on our mission to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Now, back to the program.
Yeah, Maringo Mike, he's always raring to go.
He never misses a cue. I'm not sure, at this point, how he does that.
That's for sure. That's right. Well, let's get right into our first segment that we always like to do, and that's the In Focus segment. So we're one guest short tonight, but we've got a couple that guests that will more than enough make up for the missing third guest. So I'm sure.
I agree.
All right. So let's bring our guests on. Here's Miss Debbie Stewart. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hello.
Debbie is the one that pointed out to us that this is program abbreviation, National Program Abbreviation Day. So thank you for pointing that out too.
Well, I got the term from you, but I thought let's just make it official.
Okay. And speaking of official, let's bring on our next guest, Mr. Gary Harbaugh, one of our routine or regular contributors. Well, both Debbie and Gary are both have become routine contributors. That means we lean on them a lot. is what we do. And
We're glad to be here.
of course,
Yeah.
Gary is the COS State Director for Indiana, and so a busy guy. And Debbie, now I know Debbie, you're a homeschool teacher, right?
Yeah, actually, this fall I'll be doing teaching a pod school of all the subjects in 4 days a week in a classical school.
Oh, really? Really? When
Yeah.
does that start for you?
Not till after Labor Day, so September 8th.
September 8th. Oh boy. Okay.
That's old school, Debbie. I like that. It's old school. Start after
Yeah,
Labor.
it is. We're Latin and math and social
Yeah, you know.
studies and yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah. What do you mean? We got extra time tonight. Tell us a little bit about that, Debbie. What kind of
So a
school
pod
is it?
school is kind of like several families get together and they get a location. Like this woman who actually has a schoolroom built because she's been doing it for years. And these kids tend to do a lot of hockey. So there's several families, several grades, and then for lunch every day they have a professional hockey trainer there, and they take the whole lunch hour and they play hockey. So we school in the morning and then after lunch, and then a lot of them travel all over the country to play hockey.
Really?
Yeah. So I kind of call it like a pod school because it's this little school, but it's small and it's on a private location, and we make the rules.
Yeah. What grades are we talking about here?
I'll have 4th, 5th, and 6th graders.
4th, 5th, and 6th graders.
Yep.
4th graders playing hockey.
Yeah. Well, actually, this year it's just 2 5th grade boys and a 6th grade boy. The 4th grader is a girl. So,
Oh, okay.
but she does do figure skating. So, yeah.
There you go.
So that's your class. One girl and
It's 3 families, and but they all got together and said, let's hire a teacher. We want our kids to learn the old school curriculum, but we don't want to, go to like a school that is controlled by the government. And so it's kind of cool.
Wow.
That's encouraging that we actually have some parents that are starting to think outside of the box. That's great.
Yeah, and this school, I would say it's been going on for like 5+ years. They used to have a preschool and then like a elementary and then like 5th grade on up through 8th grade. But then we lost some kids and some things happened and, just life. And then they kind of put everything on hold and then started it back up again last year with a smaller group. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
So is this part of a national group, or is this purely just a local group of families?
Yep.
Just local.
It's what
I
you
think
call It's what you call self-government, Dale.
Well, it is. And it started during COVID when they noticed what was going on at a particular school that they were
Right.
going to. And the parents pulled them out and said, no, we're not. We don't want our kids learning this stuff and the way it's being taught. And I think they call that pedagogy or something like that. It's how you teach it. And there's lots of ways you can teach material to get across some indoctrination issues. So they decided to pull their kids back in 2020, and they've been doing this since.
Wow.
Now, are the class materials, the class work, are those all provided by an organization that provides that kind of material, or are you creating those yourself?
No, we are going out and picking the curriculum. There's so much curriculum out there now.
Is there really?
We're picking out the curriculum we want for each subject, depending on the goals we have and what are we doing the creation era? Are we doing, the Civil War era? And then from a classical perspective versus maybe just from a subject perspective. So you figure out what is it you want to get across to your kids and what do you want to teach them, and you pick the curriculum, and then within the curriculum, you pick the subject, so we put together about 8 or 9 different things from different. Some were from the same place, some are from different places, and then
I'll tell you, that's now. And am I correct? These are all accredited courses. I mean, these kids won't have any problems if later on they want to merge into a public school or.
Yeah, we had never had an issue before, and they're just like any homeschool. Like I homeschool my kids all the way up. I mean, they weren't accredited classes, either homeschool classes. You're teaching them, but when they see the SAT and the ACT scores, I'm like, whoa, okay, you must have done something right, Or, we do Iowa testing every year if we want, which tells us where do our kids, are there areas that they're lagging in or ahead, and you can do all of that. So you don't typically have to worry about credits till you get to high school here in Indiana.
Okay.
So my kids, we homeschool our kids, and 2 of them, graduated high school in Michigan. And as parent, we just certified that they graduated. We moved to Indiana. My youngest son, in order to get into college, he had to take a GED exam to certify that, he was a high school graduate. But yeah, that was all that really was required.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very good. Want to hear about how that turns out, how that goes along there.
Yeah.
I guess you won't have a basketball team or a football team or anything, will you?
No, we will have partial hockey team though.
Partial hockey. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, some of these kids compete on national teams too, so it's serious stuff.
Yeah. We almost got into that. We call them traveling squads, and it's quite a commitment for not only the kids but the parents to get them to all these events. So that's I guess that's part of any more sports and starting out at an early age. So let's move on. In focus segment. So Debbie, what's on your mind tonight? What's got your interest?
Yeah, so we're getting closer to the midterms in November. So I think I heard somebody say we were 99 days away or something like that today. But
right, that's what I heard.
Just want to just touch base again around the Save America Act, because I know that this is something that I know President Trump is really pushing this, and I understand why. Because if we can't depend on our elections to have integrity, then we become like other nations where we don't really know that our vote is counting, or groups of people's votes are counting. So basically, the House passed it back in February. The Senate is still not passing it. So Trump put out a truth today on Truth Social, and he basically said to John Thune, don't let them take recess at the end of next week. They need to stay till they pass the election integrity stuff. And so that was his or he said, end the filibuster. And so the filibuster would be, they only need 51 votes for the filibuster to end. And you don't have to, when you end the filibuster, you can do it for just a group of things. It doesn't mean everything's filibustered. And I didn't really understand it. But so basically, you could just say voter integrity issues or election issues are now, we're ending the filibuster, but that doesn't mean any financial bills or anything like that they'd still require 60 votes. So Trump was pushing really hard for that. And it doesn't look like there are enough people to get 51 votes to end the filibuster, at least as of right now. But I thinking back to a couple weeks ago when right before Lindsey Graham passed away, he supposedly talked to President Trump within a day or two of that and said, hey, we've got the votes. So I don't know what's happening there. They're going to need 60 votes and we have 53 Republicans, right? So that means even if all 53 voted, we need 7 more Democrats unless we end the filibuster for that. And they don't think there's enough people to do that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But what I thought I'd do is like, okay, I just kind of went out on the internet. I said, what are all the different ways you need a photo ID? Because it's you have to register to vote, right? You have to be a citizen to register, and then you have to show photo ID. Now, about half of our states are asking for photo IDs, or a little bit more than half. But here's all the things that you would commonly need a photo ID for: voting at the polling locations, right, that have the laws; getting a driver's license for the first time or renewing it, or a state ID; getting into a federal building or state building; getting a passport renewal or application; domestic air travel; international travel. Certain train or bus services require a photo ID for ticket verification; opening a bank account; cashing a check; getting alcohol or tobacco; renting a car vehicle; medical facilities. They always want to say for patient verification; educational institutions, IDs for exams; library access; campus security, and on that goes; employment verification for your I-9 forms or secure workplace access. You have to show your photo
We
ID.
actually don't have time to go through the full list. It's so long.
That's it right now. Okay, so those are the main ones. I'm sure there are more, but like I just was trying to say them very quickly to say there's like 12, at least 12 or 13 right off the bat that you got to have a photo ID to go do. But we shouldn't have it to go vote. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll throw in a little added piece. I'm sure, and you've probably heard some of this week, but the sometime too outspoken Democratic voice of James Carville basically came up and said to his party in no shorter terms of words that hey, this is a non-winning issue, and we need to get off of this. Let it pass because we're not going to win anything with this. So here's a guy that basically, I mean, all he's ever done is put down the Republican Party, put down President Trump, put down anything that has to do with that, and it's saying, look, we're not gaining any ground here. This is a losing issue that we're again standing behind. So I think to a certain degree, some of these I'll say middle of the lane, or if you can call them natural Democrats, see the lunacy in this, and hopefully that'll sway some people. I don't know how many of them listen to James Carville, but I know a lot of people want to see him just disappear. But every once in a while he comes out and says something that makes sense. So maybe we'll see.
I didn't know
that.
Yeah. What you said about the filibuster, I guess deep down, I've been against doing away with the filibuster because of the fear that when the Democrats get into power, that they're going to use it to do all sorts of things that they want to do. And I guess I was under the impression that if we did away with it, it would be a done deal for everything. But you're saying it can be done just for certain things. I wasn't aware of that.
Sectional subject areas. Yeah, because like back in 2013, Obama had a lot of appointees for both, that the Senate had to approve for both the executive branch and for the judicial branch. And the Republicans were not allowing it. So they went and they ended the filibuster back then for as far as appointees go. And now it's stayed ever since. It's 51. It's only 51 votes instead of 60 for appointees.
So it did stay for that particular
it did.
area.
And you can go back, I think, if you have enough votes and change it. So I think it can swing. But yeah, I always thought that once you ended the filibuster, it meant everything, but it doesn't. It's not broad at all legislation.
Yeah. There's another wrinkle on this, because I think a few days ago, the House passed the SAVE Act, and they put in a funding element to fund, voter registration or photo IDs or whatever. Because it has a financial element to it, it should be able to pass under budget reconciliation with only 51 votes. And the person standing in the road is really John Thune. And if people wonder why we should repeal the 17th Amendment, this is a perfect illustration of the fact that John Thune does not represent the people who elected him. he represents special interests. And whoever the special interests are that are in his pocket have told him not to bring this up for a vote. And that guy needs to be gone. And we need to go back to having state legislatures choose choose our federal senators, because once they get there, they become free agents for sale to the highest bidder.
Good point.
Say again, Gary, how this became classified as a budget reconciliation?
Because the House put in some kind of a financial allocation of funds to fund some aspect of the, photo IDs or something like that. Because it has a financial element, it should be able to be passed as under budget reconciliation with only 51 votes. That's not a guarantee, because we still have several senators who probably will not vote, several Republicans like, Mitch McConnell, we're not even sure he's alive, but we're pretty sure he's not going to vote for it, even if he did happen to show up in the Senate someday. And Lisa Murkowski is probably a no vote. Susan Collins, we don't really know. And I think there was one other one that said, John Thune would probably vote against it. And so, we might need J.D. Vance to get to 51, but it's entirely possible we can get to 51 if John Thune will bring it to the floor for a vote. And I know COS has a campaign on now to people who call their senators, put the pressure on to say, get this to a vote. We would like to see that happen, but I'm holding my breath, but that's where we are.
Is that the $95 billion party line spending bill that they're talking about? Said it had some election related funding. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to.
It may, I can't tell you exactly what the funding element of it is, but I know they attached some funding element to it so that it could be passed under reconciliation.
Interesting. So they only need 51 votes for that major, and they slide a little election stuff in there. Wow, there's so many loopholes. Yeah, the rules are
So
you need to know how to play the rules in order to serve effectively in the Senate.
Yeah.
And
so when's the Senate supposed to vote on this?
I don't think it's been scheduled.
No, and they're planning on going home, and so that's why Trump's saying, "Hey, none of you guys should go home until this thing gets passed."
Yeah.
So
I thought they were trying to get something scheduled this week on it.
They might. I think that any senator can object to them going into recess, and I think 5 senators now have objected. So John Thune can't call a recess until they say okay, and they're not going to say okay until this gets a vote. So we'll see what happens. It's a standoff.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. He filled in all the gaps there.
All right, Gary, what's on your mind?
Well, I'm looking at the war. We're involved really in 2 wars. We're involved in the Ukraine-Russia war because we're supplying and funding the Ukrainians. And obviously we're involved in the war with Iran. And a dangerous thing happened a couple days ago when Ukraine attacked in the Caspian Sea an Iranian vessel. And their excuse was, they were hauling munitions, on behalf of Russia or to Russia. And so that's how they justified it. But this brings up 2 things. One is Ukraine would love nothing more than to get tie these 2 wars together and get us more directly involved in their war with Russia. And the other thing is that it shows the danger of this getting mixed up with these wars being combined, and the fact that Russia is assisting Iran and they are helping Iran with targeting. And so these are really proxy wars, a proxy war going on between the United States and Russia. This is a dangerous situation. And one of the things I'm worried about is we don't really have any idea when this is going to end. Trump came in with program against getting in these endless wars. Everybody celebrated that. Part of the problem is that when you get into a war, there's only two ways that it can end, and that is, one side gives up or one side is utterly annihilated. And it's not the winner that determines when a war ends, it's the loser. And Iran has no reason to give up. If we go back to 1980, there was a war between Iran and Iraq. I remember listening to all the experts on television talk about this war would be over in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or two at the very most. That war went on for 8 years. And there never was an official treaty, but the UN brokered a ceasefire that's sort of still in effect, although the war really went on for another 15 years in terms of small skirmishes until Saddam Hussein was done away with. And so one of the elements is that when we are in a war, we don't have any way of knowing when it's going to end. Iran, they're perfectly happy to say, let's negotiate, because that creates a ceasefire typically. And as far as they're concerned, they don't have to be defending, or they're not getting pummeled by bombs and missiles. So they're happy to talk, but they're not really going to give away anything, because the Iranian regime, they want destruction. They don't care about their people. And so we're in some ways, we're kind of in a stalemate. Without going in with ground troops, we can't really obliterate their military and obliterate their country to the point where they're utterly going to unconditionally surrender. And so, this could go on for a lot longer than anybody wants it to. Trump certainly doesn't want it to go on for a long time. I applaud his objective of saying that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. But where it goes from here, we really don't know. And I would like to see it end tomorrow, but this could go on for much longer than anybody is comfortable with, because I don't see Iran throwing in the towel and agreeing to surrender their enriched uranium or, give up. I don't see them just spontaneously setting up a regime change. And I don't see Trump as being willing to back down without some serious concessions from them. So I don't know. And as long as this doesn't get merged with the Ukraine-Russia war, I think we can sustain this for a long time. But it's a situation.
Do you think that Trump literally underestimated what he was getting into here with Iran? Do you think he underestimated them?
Hard to say. I think one of the things that Trump sees much of what he does as a negotiation, and in a way, he's kind of negotiating with Iran through, bombs and missiles attacks, trying to get them to make concessions. And he needs to win some kind of concessions from them. And whether he underestimated or not, I don't know. I don't know what military advice he got. But I think the important thing to look at and to understand is that it's the loser that determines when a war ends.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I also think he's got a 47-year track record to go look back and see how they've basically treated the whole situation. I think he understands perfectly well how their tactic of just stall and they know too well. Every 4 years we get a chance to see a change, and I think he understands that pretty well. I don't think he underestimated it.
I heard someone call Trump that Trump's a deal maker, and he's a deal guy. Make a deal. Well, it's quite evident you can't make a deal with Iran. They won't abide by it. So what do? you
Yeah.
know, and I think he's trying to. It seems to me on the surface, you know, he's trying to bring them to a point of surrender by using military force, and like you said, Gary, I think they're Islamic radicals, and they don't care. They don't care
Yeah.
about how many people get killed, the people get killed or whatever. So they don't care.
That's true. They don't.
Another thing, Dale, is I think he'd like to, at this point, bring in some of the countries that really depend on that strait, and get them. They need to be more involved. I mean, I think it's been pointed out, we don't need the oil. We certainly need the global piece of it, and I think by bringing in, if he could finally get some of these other countries to step up and really put the pressure, I think that's also a part of what he needs.
I agree with you, Ken. I think it's other countries getting involved. I think it's the blockade.
Mm-hmm.
If they can continue with the blockade, it's going to take more time.
Yeah.
But then another factor is the Iranian people. You know, I ultimately believe it's the Iranian people that are going to have to do something to get rid of this regime that's in charge. And I don't know how they do that. I don't know how that comes about. But I don't. None of these are quick solutions.
Mhm.
I don't think.
I went back and looked again at the Iran-Iraq war that went from 1980 to 1988. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Iraq attacked Iran because of the Iranian Revolution, which is why we've been battling with Iran for 47 years. And Iraq did not want to see Iran export the revolution into Iraq, and they did not want to see Iran become the dominant power in the Middle East. Russia was an allied with us in supporting Iraq. Guess who was allied with Iran? You won't believe it. Israel.
Wow.
Yeah, Israel was allied with Iran at that time. Now they're mortal enemies. And so, I mean, you look at all this stuff and you look at the history of the Middle East, and it's like warring clans and countries for a couple thousand years. And it's a mess. Yeah, it really is. And shifting alliances. I mean, in the Iran-Iraq war, or one of the earlier conflicts there, I guess part of it was Saudi Arabia and their battles with Iran and Iraq. Saudi Arabia has always been kind of allied with the United States, and Iraq and their oil production was allied with the French. And so, you know, here we were, you know, they were defending the Iraq, and, you know, it's a mess. And people are always changing who they're allied with and who sees it as being in their interest to be allied with this side or that side. It's a crazy place to be involved, really. Be nice if we could get out of it.
I got a feeling we're going to be talking about this for quite some time, it seems like. But yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. All right. Thanks, Gary. Ken, what's on your mind, bud?
Well, I think at this point, you know, I woke up the other day and I got thinking, you know, I think we've learned, obviously, since COVID and the days of masks and arrows in grocery stores and all the kind of things that we went through, that our not only our media and our social media platforms have used fear and panic to channel people's thinking in all kinds of ways. So I got thinking the other day, as we suddenly have a different panic that set in on a lot of people. I got thinking, I don't want to wake up every morning and be panicked and feared. So I got thinking, the enemy you're watching isn't the one you should be watching. One of the oldest principles of strategy is if your opponent is busy fighting himself, don't interrupt him. Let him fight on. Stop asking who's the loudest, and start asking who's actually dangerous. So the greatest threat is never the one making the most noise. So it's the one with the teeth, and the strategy to use it. So I think one of the things with the media, the media's fear machine, it really is a distraction to the real fight, and it's not with the panic. Because panic creates tunnel vision, and tunnel vision is how a country quietly loses its way. That's the way I look at it that way. It stops you from looking forward, and it stops you from looking back. You forget what was true only a short time ago, and you never quite see what's coming next. So I look at that. I look back, and I look at 30 days before Mondami became mayor of New York, socialism was barely a blip on most people's radar. America was focused on something else entirely. Most conservatives still believe the biggest long-term threat was the entrenched Democratic establishment, what we used to call the deep state. How many times did we use the word deep state? You don't hear that anymore. Now you hear communism and the DSA, and we simply stopped talking about it. So, if you look carefully at the real face of this socialism right now, Mondami and AOC, they're the face within the party, not the power. A foreign-born mayor. This was comforting as I learned this week as well. A foreign-born mayor who under the Constitution can never run for president. And a social media glamour star who's never actually passed a single meaningful piece of legislation. She's just she's co-sponsored a handful of bills with her fellow socialists, and not one of them has ever become law. So what have they done? What have they done? So the deeper institutional machinery, the part that actually moves money, policy, and power, has largely remained in place. So that really brings me down to the point that let them fight. Because I think at this point, they've put themselves in a box, and if you look at our Constitution, and I think this is the part that really it aligns up pretty much with what we're all about here at COS, is our Constitution is genius, and when you look at, we were talking earlier before the show started about polling and some of this stuff, and when I look at the amount of people, let's look at where some of these communist and socialist people are being elected. They're all deep blue states, and in some of these, take New York City for example. I think they said it was like 17% of the people actually came out and voted, and you know who those 17% were? They were the people that think that this communism, socialism, and VSA stuff is actually going to present a better way of life in America. We're actually, all they really want to do is tear down America. They want to start over. And I think what kind of put me at ease and let me sleep a little better was the fact that our Constitution's not going to let them. Because when you think about it, when it comes to a national election, and you look at the amount of people, I don't remember the exact number. I think it was maybe it was 500,000 seats being elected nationwide across the country. And you're looking at such a small percentage of these people that are winning in these areas that we don't need to be panicking and fearing about this right now. We just need to let them go ahead and destroy themselves, because I think in the long run, that's really gonna come out in our favor. And that's really what I was been thinking about.
Did you see where Mondami announced today the creation of the government-run grocery stores in New York City?
Yeah.
I think they're going to open like 4 of them.
Yeah, and they're going to undercut. They're going to undercut their neighboring stores by 30%.
Yeah.
30%. So when those go out of business and the government takes them over, and then when when you show up at that store to buy your green beans or whatever it is you're in there for today, and they don't have any, well, where do you go now? Where do you go now? So yeah, I mean, give it time. I think they certainly will eat themselves. I think you've heard that so many times. Give them long enough, they're going to basically cannibalize themselves. And that's all going to come to fruition over time. But I guess my point is that sometimes we get all worked up watching, and again, the news just feeds us this stuff that, oh my word, communism, these guys are going to take over next week. It's not quite that panic situation, and it's because we really have to stop and think the handcuffs that our Constitution is going to put on these people, quite frankly, is in our favor.
Well, of course, they want to do away with the Constitution. I mean, they want to eliminate the executive branch. Yeah. They want to eliminate Congress. And
but how are they going to do it, Dale? That's the question. They never say how they're going to do it. They threaten it, but they never they don't tell you how. And I think that was the other interesting part I was watching the other day, or heard somebody talking about it. It's kind of like when one of these persons was yapping away and they're going to do this, we're going to do that, and somebody said to him, how? There was no follow-up. There was no answer. So how does that play out in a general election? It doesn't. It doesn't.
All right. Good job, Ken. Let's move on. Well, I got a couple things here that have come to mind, if I can remember them, that's caught my attention. If you recall, recently I did a presentation on low barrier housing, low barrier shelters. If you recall that presentation I did, in other words, we're talking about a shelter in a community whereby drug addicts, alcoholics, drunks, in other words, homeless people that are not ready to go into a recovery program. They're just homeless and they're addicted and they're just continuing on. That our community wants to provide a shelter for them where they can go sleep, take showers, clean, and they're called low barrier shelters. And yes, there have been some of them around the country and some of them here in Indiana as well. As a matter of fact, our mayor is here in Fort Wayne, is trying to get this through. She wants the city to buy a particular piece of property, a building downtown where she wants this to be housed. And they're supposedly trying to duplicate what was done in Lafayette, Indiana. In other words, using that as the template for this one. Well, the first try at this, the city council rejected it and rejected purchasing this particular piece of property, this building. But they agreed if the city would do a survey, do a study on this, come up with other alternatives, that they would look at this again in September and vote on this again in September. Well, it was just in the news here recently where the city completed their study and they analyzed 46 other possible locations for this shelter and still came back to the one building that they had originally recommended. That bottom line, that was still the best place for this kind of shelter. So I guess our city council is going to vote on this in September. And there was, I think, a very, very good editorial that appeared in our newspaper. My wife still likes to get a newspaper, so I when I on my way to the gym 3 times a week, I stop and get her a newspaper.
Mhm.
And there was a very good editorial in the newspaper of a lady that wrote opposing this, and I think basically her message is very, very good. Is that, and I wonder how you all would think about this, that when people need to hit rock bottom before they can help themselves get better. And what we're doing here by providing this shelter is we're not enabling those people to get to the point where they decide to help themselves. We're enabling them to continue with their habits that are damaging themselves as well as the community. And I tend to agree with that. I think that when some people need to hit rock bottom before they turn things around in their lives, and if you enable someone to not reach that point, you're really not helping them. So you think you are, but you're really not. What do y'all think about that?
Now, you said this is the government, your state government is, or your city government is doing this, right?
Yeah, city.
Yeah.
The mayor wants the city to purchase this building
Yeah.
for this purpose.
Yeah. Because I think that the motivation is good. Like, you want to help people. But I also feel like too many times the government is taking the job of the church. That's really the job of the church is to point people in the right direction and point them to God, point them to a solution, point them to, principles like, you don't work, you don't eat, things like that, where you want to help them get to that place. I kind of agree with you. I do see your point that you're just delaying them getting to that point. But I am against the government continuing to do things like that when I really feel like that should be the church.
Okay, that's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, I think if you start a program like that, it's a money pit that never ends, and it never solves the problem. And so the answer the government always comes up with is, well, we need a bigger budget. We need more money, then we can solve the problem. But they never solve the problem. And almost 100% of the people who are homeless suffer from either mental illness or addiction, or in many cases both. And just providing them housing just enables them to continue in that lifestyle. And that's not good for them. It's not good for the community. And so, yeah, whether it's the church or people I've known that have, lived under bridges, we have a homeless shelter here in town. And I've talked to some of these guys, and it's like, they don't want to go there because they have rules. And if you live under a bridge, you don't have to live with anybody's rules.
I think you've got to be ready to go into recovery. You got to be ready to take steps to solve your situation. Mm-hmm. And these are people that are not to that point.
Yeah.
And so they don't qualify to go into the shelter like that. This would be, well, anyway, that's
yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen on this, but I think it's a matter of fact, the building that the mayor wants to purchase is right across the street from the homeless shelter. From the what's it called? Is
the rescue mission?
Rescue mission. Yes.
Yeah, that's that old hotel that's down there. Is that right? Is that the one?
No. If you recall, across from the hotel what used to be a Holiday Inn, Gary, across the street is a white one-story building.
Oh,
It used to be a mortgage company. I remember my wife and I closed on a house there one time. Used to be a mortgage company. It's something else now, but it's that's the facility. And the rescue mission is right cat-a-corner or right in that very vicinity.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, that one was something else that really caught my attention. I'm really want to follow this and see what happens. Maybe I'll go to a city council meeting, huh?
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let me know. Maybe I'll go with you.
All right. We'll go do that.
We'll go raise havoc.
I think it's in September they're going to vote on it. So.
You know, Dale, I just wanted to comment a little bit on you mentioned early on that you have to hit rock bottom before you have the will to change. And I think some of what you're talking about there, just again, I think, and maybe it was Gary that said it. It just allows the continuation of them swimming in their mire, and as long as they've got some of that taken care of, there's no bottom there. So
yeah,
I think the fact that there's rules and in a lot of situations, as Debbie mentioned, a lot of the churches, you could spend the night, but you're going to sit through a church service tomorrow. That type of thing to get people to start thinking a little differently and get away from how they got to where they are at.
Right.
That's a good point, Debbie. I really would like to know what role our churches in the area have played in this, if any role at all.
Yeah, and I think it's good when and that's why I think more pastors have to be willing to get involved with some of the political things, because then the mayor knows, hey, I can go to so-and-so over at, Grace Community Church and ask them, hey, we've got some people that are having these issues. What would you guys suggest? Is there some kind of a positive program that you can start working with them on, not just Band-Aid the situation?
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, that's where we came into all this trouble, is when the government started taking the role of the church back during I feel like FDR, when he instituted a lot of things. And I realized that he was pulling us out of the Depression, and, we had the wars and everything like that. But then it's just become where everybody's just entitled now to everything. And we wonder why we're getting taxed so much. And there's very little accountability to where our tax dollars are going.
Yeah.
So as we're finding out with all the fraud that's happening too.
All right, guys. That's it for the In Focus segment. Gary, Debbie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Another good one. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, Ken. Very good one. We actually went over time on that segment. So and we had one guest short. So
yeah.
Very good. Very good.
We've proven that was possible, before we had to put the brakes on it. But it was. Sometimes it's good to have a little freewheeling open access. So
yeah. Well, John Aukerman once again has gotten on his soapbox, and he wants to talk about democracy on this one. So let's listen to John Aukerman get on his soapbox here.
All right.
John Aukerman for Convention of States. I'm just plain tired of hearing the phrase, our democracy. That's because we don't have a democracy. The word democracy isn't even in the Constitution. The closest the Constitution comes to naming a form of government is in Article 4, Section 4, which mandates that every state must have a republican form of government. That is, a form of government that is elected by the people, rather than a monarchy or a dictatorship. This ensures that the government derives its authority from the consent of the governed through electoral processes. During the Constitutional Convention in 1787, Alexander Hamilton said, "We are now forming a republican government. Real liberty is neither found in despotism or the extremes of democracy, but in moderate governments." Close quote. Our second president, John Adams, wrote in 1814, and I quote, "Democracy never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. It is in vain to say that democracy is less vain, less proud, less selfish, less ambitious, or less avaricious than aristocracy or monarchy. It is not true, in fact, and nowhere appears in history. Those passions are the same in all men, under all forms of government, and when unchecked, produce the same effects of fraud, violence, and cruelty." Close quote from John Adams. And the great Benjamin Franklin is quoted as saying, "Democracy is 2 wolves and 1 lamb voting on what they're going to have for lunch." So please join me in banning the use of the phrase, "our democracy," and do everything you can to instill in the public mind the fact that these United States are, and of right ought to be, known forever as a republic.
Well, John was quite passionate about that tonight, and I think he's got a good point.
I love that analogy of two wolves and a
wolves and
lamb
a sheep.
discussing what they're going to have for lunch.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I've heard that before, but I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah, it's a good time to bring it up. Yeah.
Very good, very good. All right, Ken, let's skip on over now to, if you recall, not too long ago, we had Tim Heidenreich, our COS Indiana State Prayer Coordinator, a retired military man, come on and talk to us about military uses for AI. And he delved into this topic and discovered a number of different uses for AI in the military. So he's agreed to do a series on this, and he did his first part. The first part in his series that he did some weeks ago was on the use of AI in collecting intelligence that's needed in the military, and as well as law enforcement, as far as that's concerned too. So he's doing now part 2, and I think this has to do with logistics and supply. I think something along those lines. You know, when you stop and think about all these military activities going on all over the world, and how those have to be supplied. Those those soldiers have to be the supplies for them, supplies for the all the equipment, maintenance, all sorts of. It's a monumental task. Anyway, so in this part, I caught up with Tim recently, and we recorded this segment. So this is part 2 of military uses for AI, and let's just get right into that right now, okay?
Yep.
Tim's already done part 1 of this series. Part 1 was on intelligence and recon. So tonight we're going to do part 2, and we're going to focus on logistics and supply. So Tim is a retired military man, and I thought he would be a perfect person to deal with this topic of military uses for AI. So let's bring Tim on and get started on this. Hello, Tim.
Well, hello, Dale. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you, Tim. Tim is the Convention of States prayer coordinator for Indiana here. Are you covering just Indiana, or do you cover do you go beyond Indiana?
No, I just do Indiana, Dale.
Yeah, just Indiana. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, Tim, as I told our viewers, we're going to be talking about logistics and supply tonight. So take it away, Tim. Let's talk about AI.
Well, I'm sure everybody's heard the old saying, an army moves on its stomach. And of course, that always used to mean beans and bullets and fuel. But nowadays, the Army has so much equipment. There's a lot of repair parts, and there's a lot of other logistics that you have to account for. So artificial intelligence will really get heavily used in this area, mainly because it can do forecasting, planning, and some decision making, not on its own, but it can make recommendations faster and more accurate, especially as conditions change. You know, a lot of times in military operations, the weather changes, or something gets destroyed that you were counting on, or a roadway goes down and the supply trucks that were coming in can't get through, or you get some kind of cyber incident. Maybe they break into your network or something. And then there's always the unexpected equipment downtime. You didn't think your that high of a percentage of your vehicles were going to break down, but they did. So now you got to get the repair parts. So the forecasting and the integration of the different types of information is very important, and that's where artificial intelligence really shines. So let's just take the first thing we'll start off with is forecasting. AI can ingest signals from a lot of places. Here's some examples. They can look at maintenance records for all your vehicles in the past, or all of that type of vehicle across the whole services. The readiness status. Every month, they have to report the readiness of their vehicles and their weapon systems. And it can look at that report. Activity plans, consumption rates, training schedules, how many spares have already been consumed, and what's the tempo of the battle or the operation that you're on. Is it a fast tempo or a slow tempo? Anyway, it can look at all those things, and it can predict future needs for fuel, ammunition, batteries, medical supplies, spare parts, consumables, all those kind of things. And that will help us to avoid shortages, like units run out of critical items, or you have excess stock someplace, so you have your money and your space all tied up with slow moving inventory that you didn't really need. So forecasting will really be an important part for AI in military use. Did you have any questions about that, Dale?
You know, Tim, as you talk about this, I think back to my days in the Army, and I was most of my time in the Army, I was in a headquarters type outfit at a battalion level, but I had a desk job, okay, and I was right next to the to what we refer to as I think it was S4, I think, supply.
Right. Yeah, S4 supply, right.
And my gosh, I mean, when I stopped, you stop to think about all the things in that, and of course, I was not in a combat zone at this time, but all the things that are necessary to support men and women in the service and in the battalion, in the outfit. When you stop I was always amazed at how they were able to do it. And,
Yeah.
and of course, everything was manual at that time. We're talking about back in the 60s. You know, everything was manual. Records were all manual. It was just a massive job. So I can just imagine what supply is like now, and with AI, or even with computers these days. But certainly with AI and what impact they could have on that particular function. Just
Yeah. You know, there used to be a saying called the tooth to tail ratio, which was how many non-combat soldiers does it take to take care of one combat soldier with everything he needs.
yeah,
And at one time when I was in, they were saying it was 17-1. It took 17 people to work on all the logistics and the administrative stuff so that he would have what he needs to do the fighting. And if that's the case, think how much help AI would be in that if you could reduce that down to 14 or 12 or 13 or whatever the number is now. I don't know what it is.
yeah,
Then you also think about, let's just take a Bradley fighting vehicle or an Apache helicopter. How many parts are in one of those things? And if any one of those parts goes down, that piece of equipment is out of service.
yeah.
So you always have to have those things on hand. What a tremendous job that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, I was stationed in Korea, and we had, of course, there were various camps around South Korea of military bases. They were referred to as camps. But we had a guy, and my guess is every camp had this guy that certain things were needed, and they couldn't get them. So his assignment was to take a truck and go shopping, go to these other camps and see what he could scrounge up or trade. I just wonder, is AI going to replace?
No, we call that guy supply sergeant in our unit.
He was a sergeant, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And the CO would say, "Hey, this is what I need," and he'd say, "I'll have it for you in an hour or two," and then he'd go find it somewhere. Yeah. No, we're not going to replace those guys. That's a human deal.
Is it? Okay.
But they will be able to say where that thing exists.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to go look for it. In this case, he may be able to just look it up, and it says, "Oh, Charlie Battery's got one of those." If you go over to the other battalion, they've got one that they're not using.
Well, that's
So
right.
how much time does that save you?
Back at that time, like I said, they didn't even have computers, so they wouldn't have any way of knowing who had what. So,
Well, another area is better supply planning and routing, because in logistics you got to move those materials. It's not only have them, but you have to move them. And sometimes if the battle, like World War II, the battle was going so fast for General Patton, how did they move the supplies up so that they were close enough to him so that he could use them? And how did they move that fuel up there fast enough? Somebody's got to look at the routes and the roads and the weather and where's the enemy and what resources do you have? Do you move stuff by ship? Do you move it by rail? Do you move it by truck? Do you have helicopters with enough lift that they can pick it up? Or do you have airfields where you can put it into something like a C-130 and fly it over to this airfield? All of that, figuring that out, has been done by humans in the past. But AI will be able to help with that because it'll be able to ingest that information from all these different sources to optimize the routes and provide forecasts for how, if we do this by ground convoy, how soon will it get here? And if we do this some other way, how soon will it get here? And how much more can you carry if you do it on a ground convoy, and how much less can you carry if you do it by airlift? So that route planning will make a lot of difference too.
yeah.
Another one is predictive maintenance for things that are related to readiness. AI can predict the failure rates for certain parts on certain equipment based on looking at the maintenance records in the past. How often has that generator gone down because the filter got plugged up? Or how often has that track gone down because the track pads wore out and you had to put new track pads on it. So it can reduce unexpected downtime. And if it knows that, if it can forecast that, then it can have those parts moved to where you're going to need them, so that you don't have to wait after you put in a supply request. You don't have to wait till it comes from the higher warehousing area. It's already there waiting for you. If they can do that with predictive maintenance, that will be a huge improvement. And it could do that by improving its forecasting and scheduling for the warehouse and the depots. You know, all that equipment is in warehouses that are fairly close and depots that are way back in the rear. It's got to move those items through there. They got to receive them as they come in. They got to store them for so long. They got to, when somebody makes an order, a supply request, they have to go pick those items out, put them in some kind of shipping container and ship them to the unit that's looking for them. All that has to be done. So AI can help optimize the picking paths, just like it does for Amazon. You've seen those robots before that they go up and down the aisles in Amazon and they pick items out of the bins and they put them together and get them ready to ship. And the next day it's at your house.
Yeah.
Military can use that a lot. I don't know what the Army warehouses level of inventory would be compared to Amazon, because Amazon's worldwide too, but it's similar. I mean, I would think it's similar.
I would too. I would too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean we would still have to go to the motor pool every morning and check the oil in all the vehicles? Will we still have to do that, you think?
I would say so, yeah. PMS, pre-maintenance checks before you go out of the motor pool. Yes, Dale. Another one is visibility. Commanders need to have visibility of where that stuff is for making decisions. If they want to know where's the closest place I can get something, they could find that out very quickly with AI. I'm sure the S4 would have to type it into ChatGPT on his computer, but still, the commander can say to the S4, find out where I need 3 of these. Where can I get them?
Yeah.
And AI can help them know where that stuff is.
Well, as well as tell the commander ahead of time what he or she's going to need, way ahead of time. And I don't know, that's probably a lot of that capability probably already exists without AI, but AI is going to even make it better, I think.
It'll make it better. And another one is, I don't know if you were ever involved in any war games, but in the last 40 years or so, there have been a lot of war games conducted where you do what-if simulations. You don't actually go out in the field. A lot of times you sit in a headquarters building or something, and the planners have written up a scenario that would be like a wartime scenario, and you have to react to it. And they're training you and judging how well you can react to these situations. For instance, so-and-so unit just ran into a big ambush and they had 15 people killed and 35 wounded. How can I get medical support down there as fast as possible?
Wow.
The scenarios. Well, you can run those for logistics too. So AI can run these big simulations that stress the logistics network under different scenarios. What about attrition? You lose people for some reason or other. What about the enemy puts up a blockade? Now, how are we going to get this stuff moved over there? What if your communications go down or they get real sporadic for some reason? Maybe it's weather. What about one of your ships just got sunk? It was bringing a bunch of supplies in. It just got sunk. So they can run these scenarios, and it helps them to identify the most vulnerable places if you did get into a situation like that, and prepare contingency plans in advance so that it's not going to hurt you so much if you've already planned for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess to summarize, I'd say what's really going to change the most in the practice is the speed of decisions about reordering or routing or reallocating things. Maybe you could do it in hours instead of days or weeks. resilience, would be rapid response to disruptions so that you can dynamically move resources around when you run into a disruption.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one would be efficiency, which is you have less wasted inventory and fewer last minute emergencies to get something to somebody. And the final one would be readiness. Having that predictive maintenance ready and your ability to tie the logistics closer to the readiness that you want is really going to improve the outcomes. So all those things fit together, and AI could be helping us with those areas. And it's like honing the force, isn't it? It's like honing a knife. You're really trying to get it to a sharper edge. We're good now. But if we could really harness AI in these ways, we could really be good.
Yeah. Of course, I know, Tim, you talked about some upcoming parts that you're going to get into, and one of them is training.
Yes.
Obviously, people have got to be trained to work with this kind of technology.
Yes.
It's only as good as the people that are trained to do it are to manage it or operate it. I would think, right?
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you something, Dale. You'll probably laugh about this. In 1988, I got assigned to Fort Monroe, Virginia, which was Training and Doctrine Command Headquarters. And the first task I got when I got there was, you're going to Fort Gordon, Georgia for 2 weeks to go through an artificial intelligence course. This was in 1988.
1988?
Yeah. So I went to this course, and they taught us how to program. This was, of course, very ancient type of programming, but they taught us how to program things that would reduce people's decisions. And mine was how to get people to fill out their travel claims with a computerized program so that when the people screening the travel claims and writing the checks could go through it faster, because there was always a backlog of travel claims. So here we are almost 40 years later, and we're talking about it now at a much higher level, but it's still the same thing. And you do have to train people to use it. That's why they sent me to that school.
Yeah. I was stationed at Fort Gordon for a while in school. Yeah.
Well,
lived in Augusta there with my wife, and I were there for a couple months. Anyway.
So that is what I think we should have talked about logistics and supply.
Yeah.
And the next one that I'm thinking we would talk about in part 3, I'm thinking it's going to be predictive maintenance or training and simulation. One of those two.
Okay.
You can do either one of those. Yeah.
All right. Well, Tim, thank you very much. I'm really enjoying this series, and hopefully our viewers will be enjoying it too. But AI is such a growing force, and certainly the military is certainly an area that it has a great potential of benefits to this country.
And I'll tell you one more thing, Dale. Because I'm the prayer coordinator, I'll tell you something that I was listening to a podcast yesterday. It was about getting closer to the Holy Spirit using artificial intelligence. And I was intrigued when I heard the topic. So I listened to it. And one of the things the guy said in there is, if you have questions in your mind about something that you can't figure out in Scripture, why did this happen, or what is this, etc., you can ask that question to AI. And because AI has access to every book that's been written about, religious books and Scripture and all the different versions, how the Bible's been translated into all these different versions. And it can go look at all those things in case it needs to answer your question. So I said that to my wife, and she said, well, I want to know, do the good things that you do in life before you're saved count for rewards in heaven? And I said, boy, I don't know. I've never seen any Scripture about that particularly, so I don't know. And I said, since I just watched this podcast, let's ask AI that question. So I asked AI that question, And it gave very interesting answers about that. And each answer was annotated with the scripture that it was using to give me that answer. It gave me the answer back in about 30 seconds. So it just reminds me, we don't need to be afraid of AI. We just need to know how to use it so it'll help us with what we want. And we shouldn't trust it 100%. But if you tell it and give me your reference for why you're giving me this answer, so you can go look it up and see if you agree with that or not. I think it's a very powerful thing for us, and I'm glad we have it.
Yeah. Well, I use it quite a bit in preparing for presentations and so forth for our program here, and it'll make mistakes. It doesn't make mistakes. It assumes certain things that or it forgets that we changed this or that. But so once in a while you have to question it and get it back on track. But it'll correct itself. Okay, Tim. Once again, I think that's a wrap. Am I right? Any other comments?
Wrap with me.
Okay. All right, Tim. Looking forward to the next part on military uses for AI. Thank you very much, Tim.
Good night.
Thank you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed. That was part 2, and we'll be looking forward to part 3. We'll try and get Tim at least once a month to join us on another part. So we're guessing maybe 4 or 5 parts, maybe 6, depending on how things go. So hope you've enjoyed part 2, logistics and supply. Thank you. Have a good evening. That was interesting, right?
Another interesting topic. Yes.
Tim's doing a great job on that series, and
oh yeah, bringing in some really good history history that he had. That's pretty interesting.
It's just the more we talk about AI, the more amazed I get at the various applications that it can be used in. It just seems to be never ending. So I don't know, very, very interesting. Well, Ken, I got one more thing I want to play for us tonight. I call it the oath of office. We talk about, you mentioned it in the In Focus segment, the talk about socialism and communism and democratic socialism and these candidates that are coming forth in various parts of the country. And here a while back, I thought, if any of these would in fact get elected, regardless of the position that they get elected to, don't they have to take an oath to support and the Constitution of this country? Now, let's think about this. A true to the bone democratic socialist, card carrying DSA member.
Mm-hmm.
How is that person going to take an oath of office to support the Constitution when they're not in favor of it? When they're clearly not in favor of it, not supportive of it. So anyway, I got to thinking about this, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about what is the oath of office, what does it mean, and so I put together a little presentation and kind of an educational thing. So let's take a look at that, and then we'll wrap things up for the evening. Okay?
Sounds good.
Greetings, everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about the oath of office. I mean, is that a promise or is it really just a ceremony? Let me bring up my PowerPoint and we'll get started here. Every American has seen, but very few have really thought about it. Every time a president is inaugurated, a governor is sworn into office, or a member of Congress begins a new term, we witness an oath of office. The official raises a hand and promises to support, underscore the word support, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Many people associate the oath of office only with the president, but the Constitution requires much more than that. Members of Congress take an oath, federal judges take an oath, military officers take an oath, governors, state legislators, and many local officials also swear an oath before assuming office. Regardless of political party or position, they publicly promise to support the Constitution. There's that word support again. That tells me the founders considered this oath far more than a ceremonial tradition. The Constitution requires it. The requirement isn't something that developed over time. It's written directly into the Constitution. Article 6 states that senators, representatives, members of Congress, legislators, executive officers, and judicial officers shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Notice what the oath is directed toward. Not a president, not Congress, not a political party, but the Constitution itself. Well, what does support mean? Supporting the Constitution does not mean everyone agrees on every issue. Honest people will disagree over taxes, spending, immigration, education, foreign policy, and many other matters. Supporting the Constitution means recognizing that it is the supreme law of our nation and exercising public authority within its limits. The founders expected disagreement. That's why they created checks and balances and divided power among three branches. The oath reminds every office holder that personal preferences must always remain secondary to constitutional responsibilities. Not every disagreement is an oath violation. Many constitutional questions involve honest differences of interpretation. Our responsibility as citizens is to understand the Constitution well enough to thoughtfully evaluate whether government actions remain faithful to it. Well, why does this matter? Well, the courts, Congress, and the states all play important roles. Ultimately, however, the American people remain the final guardians of constitutional government through informed citizenship and elections. Our Constitution has endured because generations have respected its principles. If public officials stop honoring their oath, confidence in constitutional government begins to erode. Trust begins with keeping one's word. So let's close this up. Does this official understand the Constitution? Do they respect it? When difficult decisions arise, do they place constitutional principles ahead of political convenience? These are questions every American should ask. The oath of office is much more than a ceremony. It is a promise made before the American people. The Constitution cannot defend itself. It depends upon honorable public servants who keep their promises and informed citizens who expect them to do so. So the next time you watch an inauguration or swearing in ceremony, listen carefully to those words. They represent one of the most important promises anyone can make in public life. Well, I want to thank you for joining me this evening, and I thank you for caring enough to stay informed about the Constitution that has preserved American liberty for nearly 2.5 centuries. And I think as time goes on, we need to keep this office, this promise, this oath of office, we need to keep that to continue to be as important as it always has been. So thank you very much.
Very good, Dale. I think.
Huh? Go ahead, Ken.
I was going to say, it's almost I'd almost want to challenge every elected official and ask him the question, even if we had to do it with a lie detector. Did you ever read the Constitution? Because sometimes I think they use it as verbal support when they think that using the word the Constitution backs up their position. And I'd venture to say that there's probably a good percentage of them that have never read the Constitution. And I think it needs to be a requirement, obviously, and maybe they need to be tested on it now and again. And we did have one comment I want to post based on your thing. Our friend and viewer David Todd posted this. They said, the thought obviously being that if they went against this this oath that they took, he says they'd be in the running for being tried for treason.
Well, I agree with that. I think that's a good point. Another question I have is, has there ever been an elected official refuse to take the oath of office? I don't know if there has been or not, quite honestly.
No, but I'd probably challenge the fact that, obviously when they take the oath, they put their hand on the Bible, and some of them, I may be wrong. I'm trying to go back and use my already depleted memory. Didn't Obama use a different Bible? I know there was some official that didn't use.
Didn't someone use a Quran in addition to the
Quran?
Bible?
Yeah, I think so. They might have done the Bible and then did the Quran. Maybe that's what it was.
I'm thinking like maybe the representative from Michigan, Omar or whatever her name is.
Yeah, that could be.
And
again, if that just that very act really should have disqualified her, because as an American citizen, it's not the Quran that this country was founded on.
Right.
So I mean, David's got a point that that's treason there, and of course, I think she's shown us in recent years, if it truly was her that happened she's given us more than a number of reasons that she's committed treason.
Well, I think it's I think it is more than just a ceremony. I think it is.
Oh yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Good segment.
All right, Ken. Very good. Let's start wrapping things up here.
All right.
And just want to also mention that if you are looking for us, want to try and find our broadcast, the best way would be to go to our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. Search for that in YouTube, and there you will find our current broadcast as well as past broadcasts, and Ken, I think you're going to post a link up there for people to utilize.
Sure am. It's going into the chat right now, Dale.
Going in there right now. Okay. But once again, our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. Now, if you have any questions or comments about tonight's broadcast, feel free to drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. That's raiseyourvoicecos. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Drop us a line if you had any questions or comments. Well, Ken, it's time to let Marengo Mike close us out here. Any other comments from viewers this evening that we need to take a look at before we sign off here?
Well, let's see. I think David just had a little reply. Let me see what this says here. Well, he's responding to the Quran here, so I'll go ahead and post this up. It's his comment following his comment. And he says, and they're allowed to lie until they have the upper hand, according to the Quran.
That's interesting.
Yeah, different take from David there. So yeah, I want to get that thought in.
All right.
Thanks, David.
All right, Ken. That'll be a wrap for tonight. We will be back again next Monday evening, same time, 7 p.m. Might mention coming up then the following week, which would be the 10th of August, is our COS Perspective segment. And we're going to be delving into democratic socialism. And that ought to be should be a very interesting topic. And we're going to delve into that in the COS Perspective segment. That's coming up the 10th of August. So a lot of good things in the hopper for us here. So Ken, good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and hope to see you again next Monday. And let me get Marengo Mike lined up here to close us out for the evening. All right, Ken, we'll see you.
Good night, Dale. Thanks.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government. Use the QR code if you haven't signed the petition and consider using your talents to become an active volunteer. Thank you and God bless.